Okay, so our basic form, okay, or our in general form for a quadratic. We're going to take this and we're going to do this to it. Okay, so we're going to transform this initial equation to the quadratic form by completing the square. So the method we need to use completing the square. So if I'm going to solve this, I've got to set my initial equation equal to what? I'm going to solve it. What do I need to set my initial equation equal to? 0. Okay, so it's not going to be equal to y, it's going to be equal to 0. So ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And now when I complete the square, first thing I do is give that constant a shove. And then my next step to complete the square, I've got to look at my a, my leading coefficient. Is it 1? Right now, we don't know what it is because it's a. So I've got to factor that a out. Okay, when I've got that leading coefficient, I have to factor it out. So it becomes a, parentheses, x squared. If I factor out an a out of that b, what is that going to look like? B divided by a. So I've got plus b divided by a, x. I'm going to leave some space because I'm going to make that perfect square trinomial. Leave some more space and still keep that constant over to the far right. Now I'm going to take half and square. I've got to take half of my b coefficient. So what is that coefficient right now that I'm going to take half of? B over a. So how do I take half of b over a? Instead of dividing it by 2, I can multiply it by what? 1/2. So if I multiply this by 1/2, it becomes b over 2a, right? Now I took half of it, now I've got to square it. So b over 2a times b over 2a. Doing that multiplication, I should come up with b squared over 4a squared, right? B squared over 4a squared. So what do I need to do with that? I need to add that and subtract it. Okay, so far? Okay. Now I've made my perfect square trinomial, so now I need to factor it into that perfect square. I'm going to leave this sort of mess here for a minute. So when I factor that perfect square trinomial, it's going to be x plus b over 2a. Quantity squared, and then the rest to follow. From here, I'm going to take, and I want to start to isolate what is squared. So in other words, I've got to move, okay, that minus b squared divided by 4a squared, and I've got to move that positive c over to the other side of the equation because I need to isolate. I need to solve for x. That's what I'm solving for. So it becomes b squared over 4a squared minus c. Again, I'm trying to isolate what's squared right now. What's in front of what's squared? The a. So we would normally say divide by a. But if I divide this side by a, that's all well and good. But if I divide this side by a, I kind of got a mess going on over there. Okay, so how could I still divide by a but show it a different way? instead of dividing by a, I could multiply by 1 over a. I'm going to multiply both sides by 1 over a. Just going to put brackets around these just because there's a lot going on. And I'm going to multiply this side by 1 over a. So by doing that, got rid of that. That's what we need. So what is being squared is finally all alone. Now I've got to distribute that 1 over a to what's on the right-hand side there. So b squared divided by 4a squared times 1 over a. So I'm just going to go over here to my scrap paper and do this. What does that end up giving us? All right, we found a mistake, so I need to back up, and we're going to insert something. And this is, we need to put an A there. Because really when we're subtracting, what are we subtracting to offset? We're subtracting that A times that amount. So to continue on, I'm going to look, and we also need to sneak it in there. And now from this point right here, I'm going to simplify that fraction. So if we simplify that fraction that I just circled in green, what is it now going to look like? It's going to be b squared over 4a, because what happens with the a's? Cancel that, and we cancel that out. So it's going to be b squared over 4a. Erase that guy there. Now we're okay. Equals. Now let's distribute back to where we were. So we've got b squared over 4a times 1 over a. What does that give me? That should give me b squared over 4a squared. Okay. And now 1 over a times negative c. It's going to give me negative c over a. Everyone caught up? My apologies. Huge apologies that I made a mistake. I hate that. I'll lose sleep over that tonight. I'll wake up in the middle of the night like a cold sweat. Like, oh, I made a mistake deriving the quadratic formula. Okay? So I took the square root, so now we're left with x plus b over 2a equals. When I take the square root in an equation, you got to remember to put the what? Plus and minus. Do you start to see the quadratic formula somewhat appearing? Yes. Okay, it's starting to kind of take shape. We're going to have to clean it up a little bit, but we're almost there. Okay. So I'm going to, if I want to solve for x, I've got to subtract that b over 2a for both sides. So negative b over 2a plus and minus square root b squared over 4a minus c over a. Now what's underneath that radical I want to clean up a little bit. What's underneath the square root? So I have two fractions, right, separated by subtraction. I need a common denominator. So that common denominator good. It's all good. What did I drop off? 2x 2. Okay. Not my day. Really not my day. Okay. Common denominator. Now, what's the common denominator? 4a squared. Okay. Looking at these two, we've got to give it a 4a squared. Oh my gosh, you guys got the giggles back there. I appreciate it. I'm already self-conscious enough as it is doing this, making 2 mistakes. So, videotaping this live with my Mind the Ducks class, and at least half of them have a case of the giggles. So, this first fraction has the common denominator. So I'm good with that. But if I've got to establish a 4a squared over here, what's it got to become? What do I have to multiply that c over a by to get that common denominator of 4a squared? 4a. So now I'm going to multiply that top by 4a, and it's going to become 4ac. Starting to, right? I know. Now it's starting, you think some of you, more of you are starting to see. So x equals negative b over 2a, plus or minus. I have my common denominator, put it all over one denominator. b squared minus 4ac, there's the discriminant, all over 4a squared. Almost there. Right? It's almost to what the quadratic formula looks like. So I'm going to simplify this square root. I'm going to take the square root of the top and the square root of the bottom. Square root of the top I can't do anything with. I'm just going to leave that as the square root of b squared minus 4ac. But the denominator is a perfect square. If I take the square root of 4a squared, it becomes 2a. Now, what do I have? Simply here, I have 2 fractions. When I add or subtract fractions, I need a common denominator. Do I already have a common denominator?
Yes.
I do, so this is where we can write it all over the common denominator. There it is. Okay?